Excellent!
What's up guys, welcome back to Paul's Hardware. This is my monthly builds video for November 2016. I have two build part lists for you guys today using PC Part Picker. One is a mini ITX build at a $3,100 price point, the fastest mini ITX gaming PC I could put together. And then one is a much more reasonably priced one at about $1,100, both mini ITX. And both of these are of course based on your feedback from last month's build video, which was asking these questions, and you guys all voted on this one here at the top. I do have another straw poll linked in the description down below. You guys should check that out for what you want to see in December. Have a bunch of them listed here, including a green and red Christmas themed PC, an updated entry-level X99 build. That one's thanks to Tharshigan Guna, who posted that suggestion in the comments from last month's video. So thank you for that. But let's get right into it, because I have actually been out of the country for a couple weeks, and I may be suffering the ill effects of jet lag at any moment. So let's start with the $3,100 fastest possible mini ITX gaming PC. Of course, I went with an i7 6700K, and the reason for that is because it's probably the fastest CPU you can get for gaming. Now, there is an X99 motherboard you can get that is mini ITX. It's made by ASRock. It is called the X99E ITX/AC, but I ruled that out because this is a gaming build, and for gaming, I think the 6700K is a better choice even than some of the Intel enthusiast level chips. Now, if this was an all-around PC or something that you were going to be using for workstation or video editing or something, then yes, that might be a better option. Now, of course, we do need a water cooler for this CPU. You could go with an air cooler, but I decided to go with water cooling since this build is a little bit over the top. The processor's coming in at around $330 depending where you buy it. The water cooler I went with is an NZXT Kraken X31. And this is 120 millimeters, so it's going to fit a little bit better in some of the cases that you might choose for mini ITX builds. And it's got a smaller size little pump and block mechanism down there at the bottom, which I went with mainly because, well, I needed it to fit on the mini ITX motherboard that I chose, which was this Asus Maximus 8 Impact. This is going to cost you around $230 to $240, again, depending where you buy it. And this one is limited a bit around the CPU socket because it has these vertical areas here that it gives extra power delivery for, as well as that Supreme Effects audio module that's sticking up right there. This zoom function really is not doing much for me here on the Newegg website, but anyway, you can still see it there. So there's a little bit more limited space around the socket, but the benefits you get with this board, even though it's mini ITX, are that it's going to be a really good overclocker, and it's also going to have much better audio than you might get on pretty much any other mini ITX board, and that is a limitation of mini ITX boards because you don't have an extra expansion slot, assuming that you're using a graphics card to drop a sound card into, for example. Now, for the memory, I went with the simple. I was going to do one of the PC Part Picker parametric filters for this, but I just went with this Corsair Vengeance LPX 2x16 gig kit. This is DDR4 2666, and I mean, I have this stuff right here, and it's pretty much just really basic, simple, black, looks good, gets a job done. If you find other memory that you think looks better, then go for it, because it's not going to be a huge difference to the overall performance. What is going to impact performance, though, apart mainly from the graphics card and the CPU, is your storage. And here's where I actually had a tough choice to make, because when you look at mini ITX boards, you can find ones that have M.2 slots on them. This board from Asus actually has a U.2, which is like right down here. And they went with U.2 instead of M.2. So I was kind of torn at first. I was like, maybe I should go with the mini ITX board that has an M.2, because there are faster M.2 drives than U.2 drives. This one is the Intel 750 series. I went with the 400 gig version. This is going to have like the little plug on it and then a little breakout thing, and it's got a 2.5 inch drive. And then you got to sort of connect the little mini SAS there and the little adapter and the power and all that good stuff. But it is a very fast SSD, NVMe, and it's faster than any SATA drive that you can plop in there. Now, for those of you who are saying you should have gone with the Samsung 950 Pro, I hear you. That is a bit faster than the 750, but I can't fit that on this board because it's only got U.2, and I opted for the better overclocking and the sound rather than that. So that was a toss-up. That was definitely a difficult choice, but this is what I went with. So I'm stuck with it. The Crucial MX300 I added in there for additional storage. This is a 2 terabyte drive, and it's just $500, or just under $500 if you can find it for that much. But it's a 2 terabyte SSD, and that's pretty drool worthy. So gives you about 2.4 terabytes of total storage, and it's all SSD storage. And then you have a graphics card, which is the Titan X Pascal, because it's the fastest gaming PC possible in mini ITX form factor. I like actually the NVIDIA cooler for the Titan XP and for their reference cooler for the Founders Edition, because it is a blower style cooler, and that is often a better bet to go with if you're going with a smaller form factor or something that's more cramped, because it's kind of got its own little airflow system and it's not going to contaminate the rest of the case with warm air. And then of course it is the fastest gaming card really that you can get right now, especially if you overclock it, at least until the 1080 Ti comes out, if and when that does happen. Now bear in mind, you do need to buy this directly from the NVIDIA website, and yes, it is $1,200, which is really, really expensive. But when you say go for the fastest thing you can, then things get expensive. So there you go. Case is a Corsair 380T. I agonized over the case decision. I was going to go with the N-Case M1. I think it's the M1. The N-Case is a cool little mini ITX case, but it's actually not listed on PC Part Picker. And I went with the 380T mainly because even though it's a little bit larger for a mini ITX case, it has really good airflow. It especially has like a ventilated side right here for the intake for your for the graphics card for the Titan XP, and it's got the freaking carrying handle on the top. And I always say, if you're gonna build a mini ITX system, portability is often like a really nice thing to have for that. So I like mini ITX cases that have handles, makes them a little bit more portable. And then of course it's got space for your drives right here. It actually has space for 3.5 inch drives, but that will fit the slightly thicker 2.5 inch Intel 750 series. You do need to have a slightly slimmer, or at least not as thick, not as deep. I'm not using the right words here. The power supply should be thin, so I did go with the thinner power supply and the Silverstone Strider Titanium 700 watts. This is about $135. The case and the power supply are fairly expensive here. At least there are other options, but you know, it was an expensive system, so I was like, screw it, we'll go with that. Silverstone makes some really nice, very thin lengthwise power supplies. This is what I'm trying to say, is the length. No, why isn't there a good picture? The length, front to back. 150 millimeters, I believe, on this one. They even have 140 millimeter ones if you go with the 80 plus gold. All black cabling, which, you know, that's good to have as well. And hey, $20 mail-in rebate on Newegg right now. Be sure to jump on that. I'm already jumping ahead of myself. So that is build number 1, which again comes in just shy of $3,100. There's all the parts listed right there. Links, of course, to these builds are in the description down below. And in my opinion, this is pretty much the fastest gaming PC that you could build in the mini ITX form factor. You know, barring a few changes of other things that won't affect the speed, like the case and the power supply. There are, of course, other options you could go for there. But after doing all that, I was like, maybe I could do a little bit more reasonable build. Also the mini ITX form factor, also a gaming PC. I'm calling this the second fastest mini ITX PC. So this is build number 2. And again, all the parts listed here comes in, again, just shy of $1,100. $1,065, so it gives you 30 or 40 bucks to buy a Windows 10 license over on Kingwin if you want to. And this one's based on hardware that's just going to be a little bit slower. Also, if you hear snoring in the background, that's Hero. He's very happy to be home. But anyway, this is a 6600K base system, and then the graphics card is an R9 Fury, because you can get those for a pretty good deal right now. Anyway, so save about $100 going with the 6600K over the 6700K. You don't get hyper threading, but it's still quad core and you can still overclock it. Available from a variety of merchants, of course, in the $230 to $240 range. For a cooler, since I did go with a pretty small case here, I went with the CryoRig C7, which is a bit slimmer form factor. Also does a really good job, though. I've used this in 1 or 2 builds now, and I am happy with the performance. Of course, it's not going to be quite as good performance-wise as some of the larger coolers that you can get, but I like it as far as the looks as well as the silence, and you're still going to be able to overclock with that, and it only costs about $27. For the motherboard, I still went with an Asus here. This is actually the motherboard that I used in my wife's build, the hotbox system, which you can hopefully find a link in the description too if I remember to put that. I actually modified this to be all black, but you can just leave it as is for this build because you're not going to be able to really see it. The nice thing about this board is that it does still have pretty nice overclocking. Support for, of course, your 6600K as well as the memory that's you're going to drop in there. And it does have an M.2 slot on the back, which I'm not using in this parts list, but it does mean that you could drop an M.2 SSD in there in the future if you decided to upgrade your storage. For the memory, I have a Mushkin Blackline kit here. I just mainly went with the 16 gig 2x8 DDR4, and I was looking for something. Yeah, I usually like to go a little bit faster than the baseline 2133, so this is 2400, and you can get it for $74 at Newegg. If you happen to buy this today, you can also get there's a promo code listed here too, so you can get even another 18% off. If that's not available though, just look for any memory kit that's relatively low profile, 16 gig DDR4 2400, 2666, right in that range, and you should be able to find that for around $75. For the storage, I did use a parametric filter, so this is an option you can use on PC Part Picker where you just set up a series of search definitions. So I went with capacity, type, and form factor for an SSD as well as an additional hard drive. Now, since this is the case I'm using is the Node 202 down here from Fractal, it only supports two 2.5-inch drives, but I wanted to have an SSD to install the operating system on and then a bit more extra storage because, you know, if you only got a 240 gig SSD in there, you're probably going to run out of space pretty quick. So what that ended up giving me was this rundown here for the SSD option. Let me sort that by price. Again, all I did was use the capacity sliders here to go down to make sure it's a 240 or 256 gig SSD, and that was pretty much it. Oh, also 2.5-inch form factor. And then you sort that by price, and then right now the AMD R3 240 gig is right there for $60. Of course, the ever-popular 880 Premier SP550 is there for around the same price. Anything you can get down here in this range is going to be good. And as long as it's a current generation SATA Rev 3 SSD, it should be fast enough for your purposes. I did the same thing for a mechanical drive, also 2.5-inch, and I found this Hitachi Travel Star 1 terabyte for just shy of $60. I'm clicking on the wrong page here, but again, not a whole lot of options when it comes to higher capacity 2.5-inch drives, at least if you're looking for 7,200 RPM. You include 5,400 RPM ones as well, but 7,200 RPM hard drives, they're just going to be a good deal faster than 5,400 RPM, and you know, it's about the same price as well. Okay, moving on to the graphics card, I went with a Sapphire Radeon R9 Fury 4 gig because the Fury from AMD is still really nice. Sapphire makes a very nice version of the R9 Fury 4 gig. It's more visible right here. Look, it's got 3 fans, and even though it's a little bit larger, it's still gonna fit in the case. Don't worry, I checked the dimensions. $270 is a really good price for the R9 Fury, and I like this version. It's got really good reviews from... And Hero's trying to poke his head on my lap. That's okay. He's been away from us for a while. He's been a little sad. Anyway, so get that graphics card, and if you don't want to get that graphics card and you want to spend $100 more and make this system even more powerful as a gaming PC, spend about $100 more and find yourself a GTX 1070 from NVIDIA. Okay, the case is the Fractal Node 202. Very popular small form factor HTPC case, but it can also be used to make some pretty nice gaming systems. Here's a look at the internal layout. So the motherboard goes on this side, and it's got our little riser card, so you can put the graphics card down here, and there's a ton of space for the graphics card in this area, and it's got direct ventilation for all them fans. And look how tiny it is when it's actually standing up and stuff. That's pretty cool. All right, so all that stuff. And then lastly, you will need a power supply. The power supply options are going to be, well, you have to have SFX for the Node 202, and you have a more limited range of options. So I went with a 600 watt here just so I could support some higher end graphics cards. So this would still work like if you wanted to drop a GTX 1070 in there if you wanted to. These are a little bit more expensive, about $110 to $120. Newegg again has a mail-in rebate. Check that out. Newegg with their mail-in rebates all over the place. But all told, your system here is going to cost just about $1,100. Again, maybe a little bit less. That's a very powerful gaming system, though, for about $2,000 less than that really fastest gaming system I could build. This one's going to give you 50 to 90% of the performance. That's going to vary, of course, depending on what games you're playing. And I'm comparing mainly the graphics card in R9 Fury to a Titan X Pascal, which is difficult to make direct comparisons with since I don't actually have either of those cards to test. I've mainly been relying on other reports online. But either way you go, that's going to be a really fast system. So there you go, guys. Let me know what you think of these builds in the comment section down below. Also, make sure you vote on the voting thing for next month. I will be building one of these systems later this month, and if you were watching this video and looking for me to actually build something, sorry, I don't do that in the monthly builds video. These are partsless, but I will direct you to my builds playlist, also linked in the description. I have lots of builds that I've done there on my builds playlist, including my how to build a gaming computer. So if you have never built a computer before, be sure to check that out because it's got step-by-step instructions to walk you through the entire process, and then I have a follow-up video that shows you how to install Windows and get everything set up just right. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go pass out because I'm starting to get the cold sweats that you kind of get when you're jet lagged. Everything's getting a little surreal. Hero is kicking me under the table. I think he might be dreaming. That's all for this video, though. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.